You got Stitcher? Well, we're on it, so get it! Southsider Studios now on Stitcher. Stitcher is an award-winning provider of news and talk radio for your mobile phone. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Hi, this is Kyle from Nerds of Babylon, and you're listening to the Southsider Studios podcasting system. For more great podcast programming, visit southsiderstudios.com or search Southsider Studios on iTunes.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, Cinesmackers, and welcome back to Cinesmack. I am your referee and host, Mike, and I am proud to say that we have quite a lineup of judges for you tonight. Let's go ahead and start with Gabriel Rowald.
Have a Merry Christmas, people.
Sam Twomey.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Tom Haggis.
Quick shout out to my good friend Paris Hilton. Ho, ho, ho.
Thanks, Tom.
Nice.
And our special guest judge, Kyle Fine.
Holy shit, where's the Tylenol?
Wow.
No?
Nice.
Nobody remembers that? I'm
Yep,
alone on that already?
I got it. I just
Are you
got
talking
it.
about poison Tylenol?
No, it's a line from one of the movies. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Nice. Welcome. Smack it up.
So, yeah, this is our year anniversary, guys. Can you believe we've hit it? Yes? No?
This sounds
Maybe?
familiar.
Yeah, it does. Kyle is also the host of Full Body Cast, which is another podcast that we do, and he has written some of our films, starred in some of our films, and directed some of them. So, yeah, it does sound familiar, doesn't it?
That's me!
So,
I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Are you guys
Did
ready?
that sound convincing?
Yes, that sounded convincing. I think.
Good for me.
Wait, give me one more. Give me one more with feeling.
I am honored to be here.
There you go. That one's good. What do you guys think?
I don't buy
It's
it.
okay.
Buy it. All right. Well,
Well,
There you
Oh,
go.
wait.
That had feeling. That felt real.
I'm going to single-handedly get this podcast the explicit tag.
yes, you are, because I've got to write down every time you curse, so I can edit it.
I was being good. Now I'm gonna bust loose, and this is gonna be the most blue Christmas podcast ever.
Maybe.
Heck yeah.
Maybe.
Smack
All
it
right.
up.
Well, since we've already derailed,
Is that your catchphrase now?
smack it up.
Well, I'm trying it out. We'll see if it has any legs or not.
It's got legs, trust me. I found if you want something to stick, you just have to grind it into the ground. Just don't stop doing it, even if people stop responding.
That's how he got his wife. Oh,
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Zing.
You got to drag her down swinging. That's what you got to do.
And now she's stopped responding.
all right. Well,
Pretty much, she's in the other room.
she hasn't come out in 2 weeks. Let's go ahead and start things off. Let me poke the monkey here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Grinches and ho-ho-hos, welcome to a very special main event. Tonight, we have a three-way melee of the merry, as the Terrible Tyke from Terre Haute, the Benevolent Baker of Bedford Falls, and the Sleighing Shepherd of Chicago step into the ring. In the first corner, released in 1983, directed by Bob Clark, starring Ian Petrella, Melinda Dillon, and Darren McGavin, A Christmas Story. In the second corner, released in 1946, directed by Frank Capra, starring James Stewart, Donna Reed, and Lionel Barrymore. It's a Wonderful Life. And in the third corner, released in 1989, directed by Jeremiah S. Chechik, starring Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, and Randy Quaid, Christmas Vacation. Prepare for the clash of the Tinsel Titans!
Are you guys ready for that? No? Okay.
I'm ready.
You're such an enthusiastic bunch. That's what I enjoy about doing this over Skype, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll move on to our first round, which is going to be writing. And first up to swing, Sam, it's all you.
All right. Well, we have three films here that are on a lot of people's annual list for watching at Christmas. It was very interesting for me to, sit down and watch these films, not necessarily as background, but to really look at scenes and the way things are put together. And I think we all probably discovered a lot of different things. And if they're new to us, I'm anxious to hear people's experiences with, viewing these movies for the first time. Writing for me, I would say that Christmas Vacation is probably out of the mix pretty early on because, there's a lot of sight gags, a lot of physical comedy that Chevy Chase is very good at. It was obviously a vehicle for him to do that. Mm-hmm. And also the writing was built upon characters and situations at some point, including the very beginning, where situations the Griswolds had found themselves in before. So for me, it wasn't... there was definitely some funny lines in there, but it just didn't really compare to the other two, in my opinion. It's a Wonderful Life. I like the way the story was crafted at that time. I think the part of George Bailey, it really set the story up for the audience to get easily into the character, and then by the time that we needed to be invested in that character to really care as to what happened, we were there and in spades. But to keep it short, I think the writing, I can't get past the beauty and some of the voice of Gene Shepherd for A Christmas Story. Just his thoughtful imagery and the way that he compared certain things, just his verbiage of, like the electric sex in the window or the, the tons of the mechanized joy. Just a really interesting way on looking back on timeless events of childhood that, yes, maybe they happened a long time ago in this story, but they're still true today, and really left me with a smile. Mm-hmm. So my vote is going to have to go for writing to A Christmas Story.
All right. Gabe, you're next.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling this writing category might be slightly lopsided because I'm with Sam in that that the writing for Christmas Vacation really it's functional. It gets by, but it's not anything that's really very inspiring. Mm-hmm. It's really, to me, it's a whole bunch of small vignettes just kind of tacked together. It's like, wouldn't this be funny? Wouldn't this be funny? Wouldn't this be funny? Let's put them all together in one movie and figure out some way to stitch them together. And so, I didn't really think it was very, cohesive or anything like that. Very entertaining, but like Sam said, I think that's more to the acting than it is kind of the writing. And It's a Wonderful Life is a really well written film. It's very well. I mean, we're going to say it over and over. It's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason because it's a really well made film. Mm-hmm. But I'm with Sam again. The writing in A Christmas Story, as I was watching it, I'm like, wow, this movie is really well written. It just has all kinds of the writing itself. One of the cardinal sins of writing movies is relying too much on voiceover. But in this instance, I think it really, really works because, like Sam said, Gene Shepherd's delivery and his voice are just so perfect. And then it evokes so much imagery in just the writing itself that it's really hard. It's really hard not to sit back and say, "Wow, this is really good. This is really entertaining."
Mm-hmm.
And it does. You feel like you can identify with all of these events too. These are things. Yeah, sure. I didn't grow up in the late 30s, early 40s, but I still identify with all of these moments in my childhood. And so I think I'm with Sam on this one. My vote goes to A Christmas Story for writing.
All right. Tom.
A Christmas Story seems to be, of the three, it really seems to be the only one that really has this feeling that the story is rooted in something that may have actually happened or inspired by something that's really happened. And I don't really know, Gene Shepherd's history and how much of this is based on things that happened to him. But there's certainly a very tangible feeling you get when you're watching this movie, and you get brought into it very easily. And despite the fact it was made in 1983, I really think this is a movie that people are going to watch. I mean, I think people could be watching this at Christmas 100 years from now because it's just so timeless. So when you talk about a movie that's timeless, this is definitely one of them. That its origin gets lost in time. You really don't know where it falls in cinematic history. It just exists on its own. And it's even though it's kind of colored with these embellishments of an adult looking back on their childhood, it kind of goes to show you that really amazing, you can do really amazing things and you can make a lot of money when you're an adult if you can remember what it's like to be a child. And this is something that Pixar has, for the most part, has done really, really well. To be able to create something that appeals to children, but also the children that is still in adults. And I think Christmas Story has done that just absolutely marvelously. And it carried over through the acting and the directing and even the cinematography. But it starts with the writing and the great narration that just the wording in the narration it's almost poetry, some of the stuff that he says. But then the writing was able also to capture some of those little quips and sayings from the 1930s and 1940s that people said and work them into the film as well. So let's see. Comparing that to It's a Wonderful Life, It's a Wonderful Life is, in my opinion, like almost a flawless movie. If there's a flaw with it, it's probably that's maybe a little idealistic. Maybe it lacks any cynicism that is very prevalent in just about every movie today. So the movie becomes a little dated through that, but that's not necessarily, I think, a bad thing. I think that if you're going to point anything bad about the writing in It's a Wonderful Life, that's probably what I would say. The one thing that strikes me about It's a Wonderful Life, though, is that every time I watch it, I always forget how funny it is. I mean, there are just like zinger after great line, and I belly laughs in this old Jimmy Stewart movie, which it doesn't happen very often. Like when Donna Reed yells up to his mother, he's making passionate or violent love to me, mother. And I'm just like, oh my God, are my kids around? I don't want them to watch this Donna Reed Jimmy Stewart movie. But then on the other side, they've written these really great moments of confrontation. We'll talk about this later when we get to acting and directing, because that's really at the heart of those movies. And then as far as Christmas Vacation, I think Sam said this, that it kind of gets the benefit of building on the Griswold mythology, and it is one of John Hughes' best, which is saying a lot, because he wrote some really, really great scripts, and it's really wonderful broad comedy. But that being said, I have to agree with everybody else and say A Christmas Story gets it for writing.
Wow. All right. Kyle.
Well, I would love to come in and be the contrarian, but I think a lot of valid points have been made. I would say that when I tried to watch these movies, I've seen all these movies before, but I tried to watch them with a more critical eye this time and sort of compare what I like and dislike about all of them. And I think Christmas Vacation has a very loose story and premise, and it really benefits from having Chevy Chase in it, and that he's able to sort of play and improv and do what he wants to make things funny, and it does draw off what you already know of the Griswolds, which gives you like a preconceived notion. It's a Wonderful Life, I thought, was well written. I didn't think it was flawless or great. I thought it was at a really long second act. I thought it was, I don't know, it was a little bit preachy in some points, but it was good. And the premise of that movie is fantastic. A Christmas Story, looking through it, being based on the work of Gene Shepard, produced by Gene Shepard, screenplay by Gene Shepard, like he was involved in a lot of different steps, and I think you see that come through in the way he lovingly narrates it, and I think it's just out of the thrthree movies, it's definitely the best written as far as structure and just the way it evokes your emotions, and it's great. It's almost like a one-man show sometimes, or a monologuist telling a story, and you just have the benefit of this movie playing of his memories, and I really dug it. So my vote goes for A Christmas Story as well.
Wow, all right.
Good smack, guys. Good smack.
Wow, yeah.
Smack it up. Smack it up.
All right, well...
Let's all four agree real quick, and then we can move on.
What's that?
Let's all four agree, and then we can move on.
Fair
That's
enough.
what Cinesmack's all about, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It should be Cine Agree. Yeah?
Or we all just sit around and be like, yes, you like that about that movie.
Yes,
You're
indeed.
correct. I also like that about that movie.
Yes, good
Indubitably.
point.
Good point. Well
I
said.
agree, Kyle. I agree.
I agree with you too, Gabe.
Sin agree.
Cine Agree, there you
Agree.
go.
Cinegree has been canceled due to lack of listeners.
All right, well, here's a little smacktoids for each film. This one's for A Christmas Story. Director Bob Clark mentions in the commentary on the 2003 DVD that he worked with writer Gene Shepard for nearly 10 years on the concept of A Christmas Story before the film was made. And showing what you guys voted for, I think it shows that they put a lot of time and effort into it.
I think the close involvement of the person whose source material is based on, as well as letting him do the narration, I think that ties everything up in a nice package. I think that's why it is such a good, solid package of a film. The narration, the acting, everything just feels like they really, really tweaked it and worked it to get it just right.
But at the same time, though, it doesn't feel like they worked 10 years on it. I mean, we've all seen movies where it's been, it went through production hell, and you can tell it comes out the other side, and it looks like somebody made a 5-year-old made a grilled cheese sandwich, and you're just like, what? I'm not going to consume this. And it's got a real, it's got a real fresh feel to it. I mean, even 30 years after it was made.
Yeah. It's a Wonderful Life. Dalton Trumbo, Dorothy Parker, and Clifford Odets all did uncredited work on the script. I don't know who those people are, but apparently they've done a lot of work in Hollywood. And for A Christmas Vacation, the movie is based on John Hughes' short story Christmas 59, the second vacation story to be published in National Lampoon's magazine. The first was Vacation 58, which was to be the basis for the first Vacation movie. The Christmas Story was printed in December 1980. The label on the home movie reel that Clark finds in the attic is labeled Xmas 59.
That's what I was just going to say, that it makes an appearance later on.
Yep. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the second category, which is acting. And we're going to start off with our guest host, Kyle.
All right, I'll try to start this one off. I feel much more nervous starting it off now. I had the benefit of listening to everybody first. So hopefully what I say doesn't just become then that everybody can criticize going forward. So here we go. I'll start with Christmas Vacation, which I think the supporting actors in the movie, Beverly D'Angelo, I liked his kids this time more than the rotating cast of kids. Juliette Lewis, Johnny Galecki. The older actors who played the parents were great. I really liked the supporting cast in the movie. I didn't quite like or get the yuppie next door neighbors. That wasn't my favorite part of the movie. But I think Randy Quaid gives, and what is it, a memorable, if not iconic, performance as Cousin Eddie, and the older couple, Uncle Lewis and Aunt Bethany, with the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of national anthem at the end. Those were just the beautiful moments. They're memorable moments. I mean, I don't know how this movie was made in the 80s, I assume, so I must have seen this movie 10 times, and I still laugh when she says play ball. It's just, it's great. It's the acting in it is really good. It's solid. It's a Wonderful Life. For me, Jimmy Stewart borders between being absolutely brilliant. There are times when his acting is spellbinding. It's just hard to take your eyes off him. You're totally bought in. Then there are times when he's got crazy eyes going on, and he is at the end of his rope, and it just seems a little bit too much. But I thought that also was a really well-acted movie, especially the guy who played Potter, Lionel Barrymore, I liked a lot. And some of the people around town, like the cop and Ernie, the taxi driver, I was a big fan of. I just thought it was well put together. I'm going to give my nomination for Best Acting to A Christmas Story. I love the parents, Melinda Dillon and Darren McGavin. They were awesome. I thought, oh God, now Peter Billingsley. Okay, his name was escaping me. Was great as Ralphie. I thought the kids were funny. I thought everything was well put together. Even the little ancillary characters like the crazy Santa Claus and his evil elves, I thought was just really well acted, really well put together. So I'm going to vote for A Christmas Story.
All right. Tom.
Chevy Chase, physical comedy. Nobody in the history of films, I mean, you had your Buster Keaton, obviously, is up there, but nobody really has ever done it as well as Chevy Chase has. And everybody, comedy gets this reputation in Hollywood. They don't get the awards and everything. There's this feeling from people who haven't done it that comedy is somehow, because it's enjoyable to watch, it's easier to do, and it's not. Comedy done right is very, very difficult, and I would argue it's probably harder to do than drama. Christmas Vacation is not going to get my vote for this stuff. However, A Christmas Story, there are some really, really great performance and moments all throughout. My wife and I, ever since we met, we always had this idea that we wanted to put together just this string of really great moments from movies that we like, funny looks that people say, or really funny lines. And we'd be sitting there watching a movie, and we just turn to each other and like, that's going on the reel. And A Christmas Story is full of them.
Right.
Little moments, even moments where people aren't saying anything. Like Miss Shields comes back in after the flagpole scene, and she's chewing out Schwartz and Ralphie. And just, I almost wish the camera had just stayed on Ralphie and Schwartz. It is hilarious. Their look of innocence and Ralphie looking around the room trying to figure out who's responsible for it. It's such a great scene. And Gene Shepard's narration, we've said a lot about that. And the parents, which is funny, I've probably seen this movie about 20, 25 times. And watching it this week, I actually found myself sadly relating more to the parents than the kids in it. And not that I didn't feel like a kid during the kids' scenes, but when the parents were doing their parental duties, I started relating to Darren McGavin's character, and it was a really sad moment for me because I'm getting older, as well as my kids are. But It's a Wonderful Life, I think, is gonna get my vote for the acting because it's so just fantastic, and Jimmy Stewart is so great. The scene where George stands up to Potter right after George's father dies, you really kind of got the sense that George was doing everything he could to get out of the town, and that scene, that is what good acting is supposed to do. It is supposed to drive the story forward and put things in your mind that are going to help and tell the story later on and help you relate to the character. And Jimmy Stewart does it in that scene in such a way that you want him to get out of town. You want him to get out of town, and it crushes you that he is so passionate. And there's so much power in that performance that at the same time, you're so proud of him, but you know that you realize that he's never, ever going to get out of the town. And there's another scene I want to talk about later, but I'm going to credit that one to Frank Capra. So, but my vote for acting on this one goes to It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. All right. Sam.
Well, this category, I'm pretty in one picture's solid camp for sure. But there was a lot of other great performances that you guys have pointed out so far. Probably the third ranking for me would be Christmas Vacation. I do appreciate Chevy Chase, and comedy is tough, and I love Beverly D'Angelo. But the recasting of the kids is always creepy for me and always just jarring. And I didn't know that was Juliette Lewis till I saw it on IMDb as Audrey. I just didn't place it when I was watching it. I've seen that movie 100 times.
Sam, isn't there? I'm sorry to interrupt. Isn't there a? I'm not sorry, I interrupted. Isn't there a line they make in Christmas Vacation where they realize where he says something like, "Every time I turn around, my kids look different and they're all grown up." And
yeah. Yeah, it's still unsettling for me.
Okay,
it's just weird because sometimes they get younger, sometimes they get older, and they're not as effective throughout the trilogy. But that, to me, that's again back to the writing about the familiarity of the some of the things that they're always drawing on with the old Griswold family. But I love the supporting cast here. Of course, Eddie. A great continuation of a character that he did tremendous work on in the original Vacation, and one that's really cemented, really kind of some kind of pop culture icon status for that character. But to me, it was probably the third on the tier of all these great films. Number 2 would be A Christmas Story. Some amazing performances, though. I mean, it's a close two. And Tom, you're so right about just all the different small reactions from the kids and the teachers to even the people that are in the big mass scenes with Santa Claus and crowds and stuff. It's just some really nice stuff from Scott Schwartz. One big thing that I really noticed this time for the first time in Christmas Story is that Ralphie is a mush mouth through the first 15 minutes almost. Some of his dialogue, you just can't understand it. And yes, some of that it's a kid talking fast and whatnot, but it gets better at different points throughout the film. But this is the first viewing that I noticed that I really kind of had a beef with him because I wanted him to be a little better, I guess. But contrast with his kid brother, Randy, love that performance. Not a lot of dialogue, but lots of business there. And, lots of, in a way, depth for a smaller part and a very young performer. And part of that obviously would be for the from the directing standpoint as well. But I really, really like his character and the parents. Darren McGavin and Melinda Dillon are amazing, heartwarming, flawed like everybody, but good-natured people that afterwards, when they're sitting alone toward the end of the film, you feel happy as an audience to be sharing that loving moment with them, and that their family's not perfect, but they try hard, and they do a great job. The kicker has to, to me, It's a Wonderful Life is one of my favorite films, and there's a lot of factors that make it a great film. But the acting here, Jimmy Stewart alone, but all of the supporting cast there, that's even some of the smaller roles that really make an impact on the story. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Donna Reed. So proud that she's from our state of Iowa, and that to see her in that young, one of her first roles, and how beautiful she was, and how much depth that she brought to a character that really wasn't written to have a lot of depth, but I think she brought a lot more to that performance than was on the paper. And Jimmy Stewart is one of my favorite actors, and just the way he gets you into that character. This is one of my favorite performances of his. I recently watched an interview with him that was done late in his life, and he said that this was one of his favorite roles, even though it didn't really catch on or break out at the time. It is a very classic performance, and it very much moves me, sometimes in different ways, every time I see it. But this is one of my annual viewings that I will not miss in the holiday season. And I think it's because of the acting that really does it for me. So my vote goes to It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. I have to agree with you, Sam. Donna Reed is just absolutely beautiful in that movie, in It's a Wonderful Life.
She's foxy.
She is. She is very pretty. Let's go to Gabe.
Okay, well, yeah, I think this category is a lot closer than the writing category was, and for a number of different reasons. Tom talked about comedy acting and how it's seen as easy, but I agree with him that I don't think being a good comedian doing good comedic acting is really very easy. And what you'll find is that a lot of great comedic actors are actually very, very good dramatic actors as well. And I think you actually have to pass through dramatic acting to get to good comedic acting. Mm-hmm. And I agree. Chevy Chase is one of those great comedic actors, and his physical comedy is virtually unparalleled. Although I'd like to mention some others like Jim Carrey, great physical actor. Chris Farley, I thought his physical acting was just awesome, hilarious. I just watched Black Sheep the other day, or no, Tommy Boy. I watched Tommy Boy the other day, and he's just hot. I don't know. He just makes me crack up. And so
he's incredibly agile for a guy that big.
No kidding. He really is.
It always makes me feel shitty about myself, but that's okay.
Well, and then I also happened to see the Saturday Night Live skit where he's trying out to be a Chippendales dancer with Patrick Swayze. And it's like, you know what? He's actually not that bad at dancing, and he's like kind of good. It's like, wow, yeah, it's really impressive. So, I really do think there's comedic actors don't necessarily get as much credit as their dramatic counterparts. But I agree with Tom in that I really think that it takes a lot of skill. As far as A Christmas Story is concerned, man, can you get many better child actors than that all in one group? I mean, I think directing children, finding children who can actually act is near impossible. And this movie is full of them. It's full of great child actors. The nuances that they express in just their facial expressions. And I think Sam was right that I didn't think about it until he mentioned it. But Peter Billingsley is a little bit of a mushmouth at times because he said something right at the beginning of the movie. Something about seeing bears. Somebody saw some bears over by the drugstore or something, and I didn't quite catch it. I'm like, what did he say? But overall, I thought he was stellar. I really liked his facial expressions. I really thought, he was pretty nuanced for a kid, and all his counterparts were really just off the charts for child actors. And it's like, wow, what's the likelihood of that? But that being said, I just don't think you can compare to the acting in It's a Wonderful Life. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't actually, I take that back. I hadn't watched it. That being a distinction between having seen it. I haven't watched it in years. So I just didn't really think about the acting until I saw it again. And I'm like, well, this is supposed to be a lighthearted, uplifting, inspirational holiday movie. Right. How deep can the acting really be? Well, Jimmy Stewart is really amazing. Talk about nuance. He brings out the joy and frustration of that character in so many subtle ways that you just really can't help but identify with that character. And identify with that desire to get out. Like, I have to get out of here, but I have this obligation. That character is so selfless that it's destructive to himself. And you know, he knows what he wants, but he also knows what's best. And there's this conflict the whole time. And I'd never really thought about it, and I'd never really noticed it until this time. And Jimmy Stewart really pulls off that internal conflict in visible ways. Donna Reed, she was beautiful. She was gorgeous in this movie. When there's that scene where he sees her again at the dance, he goes to his brother's graduation dance, and then her brother, I think it's her brother, comes up and says, "You got to do me a favor. You got to dance with my sister. You know, it would make her night." And so he's like, whatever. And then he sees her. And I think my heart skipped a beat at that moment when I was like, oh, I think I fell in love with Donna Reed at that moment. And she was also very nuanced too. She didn't have as much to work with, but she was very nuanced as well. And all the supporting cast is great. I really don't think you can compare to the acting in It's a Wonderful Life. So I think I have to give that my vote.
Fair enough.
Hey, I just want to, nobody had mentioned him. I just want to make a quick shout out to Ian Petrella, the guy that played Randy, Ralphie's little brother in A Christmas Story. I have a soft spot in my heart for him because he has so few lines, but his every moment he's on the screen is just pure cinema gold. I love it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He does such a great job with the little time that he has, and I'm sorry I didn't give it to A Christmas Story, but I just want to point out, I just wanted to mention him because he did such a great job in that.
Right on.
My favorite, I got to tell you, my favorite visual, like face reaction for him is when they're looking at their presents and they realize they have socks and they both look at each other and throw them over their shoulders. His expression is absolutely priceless. He somehow looks like a 35-year-old man tired of getting ties, but he's like 7 or 8. It's just, he was great.
Well, my totally favorite part, it's like almost a throwaway line, but when he's unwrapping the presents and he's like, "It's a Zeppelin!" and just like his inflection and enthusiasm, and that's what I love, that little scene. Like, I love it.
Well, I wanted to point out Jimmy Stewart's other girl that was hot to trot for him. Wasn't her name Violet? Was it Violet?
Oh yeah, she was.
She was very
she was
pretty as
too.
well. Man, he had some good choices there, but I have to agree. Donna Reed just took my breath away when I first saw her. You know, to be honest, I wasn't expecting it because this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen it. I've just caught it when it's been on TV or over at a family or friend's house. But this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched it. And I have to say, just like Gabe said, when she turned around and it was her, it just was like, wow. You know, that's, holy cow. You know, that's Donna Reed. And I don't know, she's just beautiful. But going from her to a certain person that thinks he's somehow being a target of the United States government, and that's Randy Quaid, is Cousin Eddie. I really missed something. I don't think we should have had It's a Wonderful Life. I think we should have had Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure from 2003. Oh, yeah. And I imagine that was fantastic. Which
he was great in Vegas Vacation.
Yeah,
he was good in Vegas Vacation, at the buffet.
And I thought they did a made-for-TV movie too that was just Cousin Eddie, and it was maybe it was that one, maybe it was the one from 2003, but awful. Oh God, I only watched like 10 minutes of it, and it is there's nothing to.
If there would have been other movies in this running, Christmas Vacation would have got more love on the acting. I thought Beverly D'Angelo was great as this wife who's deeply in love with basically a crazy man and just has to deal with his eccentric ideas, but is absolutely nuts for him. Yeah. I think she was great. Yeah. And
Foxy too.
So
she's foxy.
What I realized after watching this is I guess I never thought about it, but Jimmy Stewart is a damn good-looking man. And when he starts out as like the younger George Bailey, he looks a little bookish, but as he gets more and more haggard, he's he turns into, he could have passed for James Bond in some of those scenes with the 5 o'clock shadow and the gruff look. I mean, he really just has the look of a movie star.
Well, I was really impressed when he pulled off all the drugstore scenes. You know, how young he made himself look. And,
Yeah,
that was impressive.
when he was walking on those anti-stilts.
Yeah.
Make himself shorter.
Actually, I was really impressed with that kid, with the kid that played young Jimmy. You know, that was I thought he did a fantastic job, especially for a child actor, and especially for a child actor back in 1946. Because that let's face it, acting today is not really what it was back then. It's been kind of down to a laser point on how you're supposed to act, and a lot of the kids' roles were just very flamboyant and loud and annoying, and I thought he did a really good job for that. But let's go on to Christmas Vacation Smacktoid. It was the final screen appearance of Mae Questel, that is Aunt Bethany, whose film career began in 1930, and she was the voice of Betty Boop.
Oh my God! Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I can kind of hear it.
And It's a Wonderful Life, for the scene that required Donna Reed to throw a rock into the window of the Granville house, Frank Capra hired a marksman to shoot it out for her on cue. To everyone's amazement, Donna Reed broke the window with true aim and heft without the assistance of the hired marksman. And Jimmy Stewart was so nervous about the phone scene kiss because it was his first screen kiss since his return to Hollywood after the war. Remember, he flew bombers during World War II. Under Frank Capra's watchful eye, Stewart filmed the scene in only one unrehearsed take. And it worked so well that part of the embrace was cut because it was too passionate to pass the censors.
Wow.
There's so much feeling in that scene too.
There
it's
is.
just dripping from it. Like you can, it's like you don't see many scenes like that in a film where you really feel it. You don't just see it and hear it. You feel it, and it's a testament to both of those actors in that moment.
Right, because they keep looking at each other. Yeah, they keep looking at each other and trying to fight the urge, and then they look back at each other, and I agree.
Well, it's like desperation.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost desperation for each other. They can't handle this proximity. It's setting them off. That's a great scene.
Yeah. For A Christmas Story, according to director Bob Clark, Jack Nicholson was given the script and was very much interested in the role of Mr. Parker, the old man. However, Clark didn't learn of this until later, and the studio didn't want to pay Nicholson's fee anyway, which would have doubled the budget. Doubled.
Thank God.
Whoa.
Thank God. Thank God.
Regardless,
Yeah,
Clark said...
Darren McGavin was perfect.
Regardless,
Yes.
Clark says that Darren McGavin was still the better choice and was born to play the role, and I have to agree with
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was great.
Yep.
He was like a dad in the 40s and 50s. He was simultaneously hard ass and very sweet. And one of the things we didn't really talk about, I'm sure we'll get to, but the vignettes where they flash, where like you go and he has soap poisoning or he's fighting off Black Bart. Gavin gives a different performance. Is totally malleable to this kid's fantasies, and it's just the great, perfect casting on the parents.
Well, in his part, especially when he fights with the furnace, that's how I feel with my house sometimes. Like there is a certain something that just will not stop, and I will not stop until it stops. And it just, every time that happens to me, I think about that scene. So, all right. Talked about enough about acting. Let's go ahead.
Can I quote one line that I absolutely love from
Go
A
ahead.
Christmas Story?
Yes.
I think it's some people are Catholics, others are Protestants. My dad's an Oldsmobile man.
Yeah.
When he's coming in to get the pot of hot water, and
yeah.
he's yelling that the car would freeze up in the middle of summer on the equator. Oh, God, it's so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our third round, which is directing. And we'll hand it off to Gabe.
Okay, I know we're in our third round, but I do have one other point on acting that I'd like to make. I have a hard time with it sometimes is making the distinction between casting and acting on a certain level. And I think these three movies kind of help make that distinction. I think Christmas Vacation was great casting with good acting. A Christmas Story was a good mix of both. Great casting, great acting. And It's a Wonderful Life was the epitome of both. Excellent casting, just stellar acting. And I don't know if anybody else has any trouble with that distinction, but I've always kind of like, whenever we talk about it, I'm like, well, that person is great for that part,
yes,
but it's not really great acting necessarily. Whereas, some people, it's like Darren McGavin, he was perfect in both, perfectly cast, acted well. But anyway, okay, so I digress. Well, the directing category might be a little bit closer than we think, too, in my opinion. Mostly because we were now lumping some other things in here, the editing and the cinematography, into this category. So it's a little bit closer than we might think. I think we've got kind of a trend going here where we start with Christmas Vacation and talk about how it was an entertaining movie, and then we slough, we kind of slough it off and then talk about the other two. And I'm not going to deviate too much from that. I thought, directing-wise, I don't really think there was, for Christmas Vacation, I don't really think there was a lot of work that had to be done directing-wise. Like I said before, I felt like it was a series of short, silly vignettes that were kind of loosely tied together. And you had great comedic actors with good timing and probably a great improvisational skills kind of running the show, it seemed. You get Chevy Chase into a scene and you just kind of let him go. You get them in the car trying to sing harmonies together, and you don't really direct that. You just you give them the situation and you kind of let them roll with it. And I think maybe letting go a little bit is a hallmark of a great director, kind of letting the actors take these characters and go with it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to let go, but I don't think there was necessarily a lot of direction that was happening in a Christmas Vacation. However, one of the things that really kind of took me by surprise with this movie is the cinematography. I actually thought the cinematography was really good. There was a lot of nice, creamy, shallow focus in it, and I really enjoyed it a lot. There were shots of them outside where they're standing on the street, and it's a nice shot of the characters. It's like a medium shot of the character's face, and everything, the entire background was just out of focus, and you just got this really beautiful kind of color in the background with all these Christmas lights that were back there. And there's the scene where he's stapling all the lights to the roof, and he slips and slides down the roof and grabs onto the downspout on the way down. And there's a nice shot where he's kind of like trying to get over to the ladder, and it's very shallow focus, and his hands are kind of out of focus, and then he moves a bit into focus. And I was like, wow, there's some really nice cinematography in this movie. So I have to give him a lot of credit for taking, what could a movie that could have sufficed with just, average, standard, get the job done kind of cinematography, and kind of spicing it up a little bit and making it look kind of nice. And so, I give him some credit there. A Christmas Story is clearly well directed. Again, going back to the child actors, I mean, could you imagine managing that with all those children? I just really think that getting those great performances consistently out of those children is a hallmark of a great director who's in touch with the material and in touch with the actors. So it's well put together. It's concise. There's some good cinematography in it as well. Again, I think that falls more in most cases. It falls more into the functional cinematography to me, in that they got the job done. It tells a story, but there's some really beautiful moments in it. Some of the stuff where some of the close-ups of Ralphie are just really great. And but overall, I wasn't like floored by the cinematography in it. But the directing is really stellar. Now, It's a Wonderful Life, when I was watching it, I thought, okay, this is the longest of the three. But at the same time, I thought, this is really concisely put together. Mm-hmm. There's no fat in this movie. I was also thinking, this is melodrama at its finest. It's very melodramatic. It evokes a lot of emotion. But it doesn't seem heavy-handed. Mm-hmm. And I thought the story was really well put together. There's nothing in there that you don't need to tell this story. The characters are built so well. The acting is so good. The cinematography is beautiful. I love black and white. I think black and white cinematography is a lot of times more exciting than color cinematography. You would think, wow, add color and you've got this extra layer. Mm-hmm. But no, there's just something about about black and white and the lighting that just really gets you. And there's just a few moments where I feel like maybe they had some troubles, and the editing gets a little rough in a couple of spots. But overall, the editing seems seamless. The story is concise. The acting is stellar. I don't know how you can't give the vote for directing to It's a Wonderful Life. So that's what I'm going to do.
All right. Let's head it over to Sam.
Well, my friend Sam had to go to the bathroom, so I thought I'd just stop in and say Frank Capra did a wonderful job, and I need to go eat some home cooking soup. So here's Sam.
Hey, sorry about that, man. It's crowded around here this time.
Oh,
of year.
you mentioned the soup. Oh,
Yeah.
they're fantastic.
Yeah, it's a tie-in. It was great.
Sam, did you build your house on like a Hollywood graveyard?
I wish.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, sometimes they just come to me anyway. The old, spirits of Hollywood, and we talk, and I'm a lonely man. Directing, man. There's some really good stuff, and then there's Christmas Vacation.
Wow.
I mean, there was Gabe. You're right. There was some cinematography. There's some good cinematography in there. I would not want to be the director of that film, because at that point it's Chevy Chase vehicle, and he calls as many shots on that set as you do. So I would really commend the director for bringing the vision together with a large ensemble cast, and putting together a memorable film. Obviously, lots of people really like this film, and if you go by the social media that you see, there's a lot of references to it. A lot of people really love that character, and it's fun. But as far as the directing aspects, when you talk about Frank Capra and you talk about Bob Clark, I mean, these are two really good examples for people to see if they want to study different styles of directing. Some of you guys Gabe, you've definitely hit on it when you talk about working with kids and how difficult that is. So both the directing on the first unit and second unit for all of the crowd scenes that they have, I think is really well done. And he was able to make a safe atmosphere for them to give those performances. And I bet it would have been amazing to be on this set because of just, the warmth of the characters that you have, the great casting you have already. And then you have a director that looks like he gives his actors the chance to, really just explore those roles and doesn't micromanage. I think Frank Capra, the same can be said of he liked to create moments on the set. The theory of, creating these individual acting moments and if they would just happen spontaneously, like an accident, if a stagehand would drop something or that kind of thing. He really liked to create that, and I think it shows on the screen. A lot of those takes are, first takes or where the actors were really into it and didn't rehearse it a lot, and they just went with it. And maybe that's why it felt so genuine. So I think Frank Capra, deserves a lot of credit for creating that atmosphere for these great actors and this great script to thrive. Some beefs I have with It's a Wonderful Life, which I thought was kind of strange, is there's one editing point. Gabe, you talked a little bit about editing. There's this one editing point that occurs with some really weird jump cuts when Uncle Billy is in the bank. And it's the weirdest, like, everything looks so perfect up to them, and it's just the weirdest cuts for, like, I'd say a series of, like, 7 or 8 cuts they just look weird. They don't mesh well together, but that's the only point that I saw in It's a Wonderful Life. And then there's all these animals and birds. I don't know if that's in the script, that those were Uncle Billy's or whatever, but it's like, why are all these animals in this building and loan?
May I interject real quick, Sam?
Yeah.
The Raven, or the Crow, or whatever you want to call it, was actually Frank Capra's, and it appeared in every one of his films from 1938 on until it died. So
good thing he didn't have like an armadillo or something, because that would look so strange in the bank. But even an armadillo in It's a Wonderful Life could not tank the beauty of that film. And I think the director took perfect control over some amazing elements. I'm sure Mike and his Magtoids will talk about the snow or some of the other technical elements that were overseen to make this movie so unique. The cinematography was wonderful. I love it in black and white. Jokingly sent a link to the color version to some of the fellow panelists, not to watch, but just to see how weird it was. I mean, colorization was a weird phase, but this movie is beautiful in black and white. Like the colors and the characters and the performances, and they're so vibrant, and it touches me. The story, every time I watch it, I have a real connection with it, and it's one of the few films that really provokes an enormous emotional response in me, and I think that the acting is definitely a big part of that, but the directing and the way it was put together. So my vote has to go to It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. Kyle, you're up.
Okay. Well, directing. So I'm going to follow Gabe's lead and the overall night's trend. I think Christmas Vacation was adequately directed. I think a lot of it is the Chevy Chase show. And like Sam said, I think it would be hard to kind of rein that in. But if you've got Chevy Chase and that's your bankable star, I mean, that's kind of, you're letting him do his song and dance.
Right.
Christmas Story was very well directed. You guys have already mentioned great points about working with kids. I thought they created overall a great sense of the time and of the city. And of sort of that era. I thought that was all really well done. I really liked the pacing of it. I liked the only thing I didn't like about it was the abrupt ending, but that's more of a writing thing than a directing thing, maybe an editing thing. But I did notice what Sam was talking about in It's a Wonderful Life. There are these very strange cuts that just come out of nowhere, and I just kind of chalked that up to the time, maybe the equipment, or I'm not sure. It's the longest of the movies, but I agree with Gabe in that it doesn't feel heavy or overly long or anything like that. And I agree once again. This is no good for the smack part, but I agree with all you guys that the black and white cinematography looks great. The snow scenes look great. The city, I mean, when they transform the city into Pottersville, that is really well done. I am going to go with the trend. I'm going to give the directing to Frank Capra for It's a Wonderful Life as well.
Wow. All right. Tom, you're last.
Just a quick little interesting tidbit. I found out there are 1.8 million movies on the IMDb. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm going to get to that in a second.
Hey, you directed one of them.
I did. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I don't think it's really fair if a director gets docked for other work that they did. But it should be noted that Jeremiah Chechik was responsible for the Avengers, and not Not the new cool one that's coming out next year, but the Ray Fiennes, Uma Thurman train wreck.
Don't remind me.
I'm really sorry. So, I mean, and Christmas Vacation is kind of, it was a set and shoot, and it served the story, and it worked really, really well. I really couldn't see any of the Avengers stuff inside Christmas Vacation. It should be noted that after he finished the Avengers, he went to TV and he has not been back since. After getting nominated, after getting the Razzie nomination. So,
God, that
it is
movie
what it
was
is.
awful.
They chased him out of film.
They did.
It seems that way. So, but it doesn't always work out that way, and I'll get to that in just a second. But It's a Wonderful Life. There's this really great shot at the train station when Harry returns home, and George finds out about Harry's new job, and Jimmy Stewart goes. He goes in the matter of maybe like 6 or 7 seconds. He goes from like shock to panic to anger, and then to sadness and acceptance, and then finally, as George Bailey's character is supposed to do, it goes to immediately to concern for his brother. Is his brother going to be all right? He stops worrying about himself almost instantly and starts worrying about his brother. And Frank Capra's choice to trust Jimmy Stewart and simply just follow him on this nice slow pan and get Jimmy Stewart to pass very close to the camera, and all of these emotions going through Jimmy Stewart. And it's not, they just walk by the camera and look concerned. I mean, you can actually see the agony as his life is careening off on this tangent that 2 minutes earlier he had no idea about. And it's such a great shot, and it's such a great choice. And I get choked up every time I watch it, and I mean that's what a good director does. It knows when to stop the fancy camera work and trust your actors to do the work for you, and that's really great. However, A Christmas Story is going to win out for me on the directing, because Bob Clark's direction and Reginald Morris's lens work on the film is, I really think, what is mostly responsible for why this film has endured so long and why I think it will endure for decades and decades and decades. The specials that they use in the film, by specials I mean shots that aren't just a standard lens on the camera, but something where there's an additional effect or a special lens that they're using or a special movement that is outside the norm of the film. The entire Black Bart scene, for example, there's a really great shot when Ralphie is going up to see Santa Claus and the elf spins him around, and they got this really wide angle lens on it. You get this idea of just how massive Higbee's is in this really great panning shot as he spins around to face Santa Claus. And I'm going to give it to, I really like Frank Capra though. I'm going to give it to Bob Clark and his direction, but I mean, it's very, very close for me. It should be noted that out of 1.8 million movies on IMDb, there is one film that is currently ranked the #1 worst film of all time out of 1.8 million films. Does anybody know what that movie is?
Birdemic.
Battlefield
No.
Earth.
It's actually Baby Geniuses 2 Super Babies,
Wow.
directed by Bob Clark.
Oh, really?
Okay.
It was his final film before his car accident. So yes, that's
No.
he has
that's too bad.
possibly the greatest Christmas film of all time and the worst film flat out of all time.
Oh my God, that's bad. That's rough.
That's range. He's just showing his range.
There you go. More reason to vote for him.
Wow.
Well, with A Christmas Story, Bob Clark's success with the teen sex comedy Porky's allowed him the ability to make a movie he wanted to make. Without Porky's, there would have been no Christmas Story. Which, come on, Porky's, fantastic. I love Porky's.
I still to this day cannot get into Porky's because it
Really?
scared the piss out of me when I was a child. I know when I was a kid I should have been like, oh, boobies. But I was like, oh my God, they're hacking that white guy up. And they're going to run out and scare all these naked guys. That was what scared me.
My favorite
So,
scene
couldn't
is
enjoy that.
my favorite scene is when the female gym teacher is trying to explain what she saw to the principal.
Oh, and she will not use the word penis or whatever.
My dad and I will just fall on the floor laughing. That's something we share. We love that scene. I love it. For It's a Wonderful Life, this was the first and last time that Frank Capra produced, financed, directed, and co-wrote one of his films. That's a lot. After the war, Frank Capra set up Liberty Films, which with George Stevens and William Wyler to make more serious, soul-searching films. This and State of the Union were Liberty's only productions. And finally, for Christmas Vacation, Frank Capra III, the grandson of It's a Wonderful Life director Frank Capra, was the assistant director on Christmas Vacation.
Wow.
So that could explain possibly for some of the scenes that you guys actually pointed out for Christmas Vacation. So with that
Plus,
being...
It's a Wonderful Life is actually in Christmas Vacation for a few seconds.
It is?
Yeah, it is.
And
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation is actually in Rocky V. Yes. Believe it or not.
What?
It is. Yes.
Are we creating an infinite loop here?
I think we might.
We might.
Some sort of wormhole through time?
We might be. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to...
If that happens, Gabe, you're my constant.
Okay.
If the wormhole ends at Rocky V, we're all screwed.
We are screwed.
Oh,
I watched Rocky V. We're
eternity
screwed.
there.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to our fourth and final round, which is overall. And we'll go to Mr. Tom Haggis to lead us off.
Before we get in that, I just on the three-way bout that we did this month, the show. I guess I'm not like a real big fan of it. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of hard to organize my thoughts. And we kind of built it up because we had been talking and thinking about it for a really long time. And I kept saying to myself, "Oh my God, this is going to be so great! This is going to be so great." But in the end, it was really kind of awkward, I think, because I just kind of felt like I wanted to please everybody, and I wasn't sure what to do with my hands. And the other two seemed way more into it than me.
Yeah, this is like how a three-way ends, Tom.
And and it was over. It was over so fast, and the anticipation was just replaced with regret.
I wanted to say it was awkward for me
Christmas
too.
Vacation is in the corner just watching.
I'm sorry. I've got notes from something else here. Hang on. Yeah, you know what? My vote for overall is for It's a Wonderful Life. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Quick and simple, just like our three-way. Kyle, go ahead.
Okay. Going into these, I thought for sure my favorite would be Christmas Vacation. It's the one I remembered most fondly, but watching them with a critical eye and comparing them in the various categories we discuss, it sadly came in, I think, maybe tied for second. But my favorite movie out of all these to watch again, and I think the best put together package from top to bottom, I'm going to give to A Christmas Story.
All right. Let's go on to Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I think each of these movies is an unmitigated Christmas classic in its own right. They each hold kind of a special place in our kind of hearts and memories. And I looked at some lists of best, top Christmas movies ever. And all three of these movies were consistently in the top 10, including Christmas Vacation. Mm-hmm. And as much as, it really, it may have been a little bit out of its league against the two movies we pitted it against. It really is an entertaining movie, and it really is in its own ways a very heartwarming movie. And so it's really hard to take all of these three classic movies and say, "Oh, this is the best one of the bunch." But we often talk about rewatchability,
right?
And I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of emotional impact, and I think the movie that has the most rewatchability and the strongest emotional impact for me was definitely It's a Wonderful Life. And I think I'm going to have to give my vote to It's a Wonderful Life because I would watch it again, and it really affected me very strongly. And in part, a little bit because of the message at the very, very end about, basically a person with good friends is truly rich. Mm-hmm. And I can identify with that because I think I am rich in that respect. I have a lot of great friends, including my friends here on CineSmack.
Oh, Gabe.
And so,
Oh, Gabe.
yeah, I know. I'm being even more melodramatic than the movie itself, but I mean it. And so I think it's the movie that I would return to most often and feel most strongly about. But I have to say that Christmas Story is a very, very close second because it's one of the most enjoyable, one of the most rewatchable Christmas movies ever. They play it on, I don't know, is it like TBS or something? They play it for like 24 hours straight.
Yes.
And normally I would roll my eyes and say, oh my God, what are they doing? But with this movie, amen, it deserves it. So it's got to be a really close second. But my overall vote goes to It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. Let's go to Sam.
Overall, looking back through my notes, which I try to take notes on all of these as we're going through it, and my Christmas Vacation notes seem to be a numbering system for sight gags and physical comedy. Overall, and then the funny thing is with the other two films that we see, I love Christmas Vacation. It's it's part of my holiday, and I understand the humor and I enjoy it. But put up against the other two films, when you have notes like sight gag number 5 is a pair of tits. It kind of changes the way I look at, and I watched that one last, but compared to my notes on the other ones where were like, uplifting and great story and, easy relatability, like it wasn't fair.
I don't see how tits can't be uplifting and relatable.
Well, and the placement as number 5 is great because if it was 4 or 6, it might have gone too far. But so I will, credit where credit is due because I don't want to diss on Christmas Vacation too badly. But Christmas Story is one of those things that I saw it when I was a kid, shortly after it came out. I don't know if I saw it in the theater, possibly, but it was one of those films that one of my notes was easy relatability. Very soon you get drawn into that story, whether you're a young kid and seeing it from the kid's view, or you're an adult and you're seeing it more from the adult's view. One thing I was struck by is when the kids go to bed the night before Christmas, the parents look to each other and say, "Let's get them," referring to the presents. But kids can watch that and not think twice about what they said, but the adult audience knows exactly what they're talking about, about putting the presents out for their young ones. I love Scott Farkas. My overall category sometimes becomes a catch-all for some of my notes. The character Scott Farkas, the imaginary cussing, like both when Ralphie delivers it and the father delivers it, like it's so funny and it's so it's great. You know what they could be saying, but hearing them saying these ridiculous words, but with just as much emphasis, or in sometimes in Ralphie's case, while he's in a trance and whatnot, like it makes me smile every time. And one line, writing wise as well, when Ralphie's talking about his dad bearing the lamp, and he says, "Though I couldn't be sure. I thought I heard, gently heard the sound of taps in the background." Just like little touches like that make A Christmas Story a wonderful holiday event. But overall, I really have to go with It's a Wonderful Life. And I'll be very honest, I cry every time I see this film. And it moves me in that way. Most of it happens at the end scene, either when he's first running through Bedford Falls saying Merry Christmas to everyone, but especially when he's surrounded by his friends and family. And just all of that suffering, everything that he did so unselfishly is paid back in that the people of that town love him. He truly is the richest man in town because he helps other people grow and live, and he believes that everyone has the right to a chance to build their life and not be trapped in poverty. It just really gets me, and it's one of those films that when I watch it every year, it's not like, oh, it might be on NBC and I'll catch it or whatnot. I'll go out of my way to make sure I watch it, and I think it's for the feeling I feel after it's over when that last bell rings. And you think about your life and your friends and your family, and for how that brief period of time you want to be a better person. You want to be the good parts of George Bailey. And for that 2 hours and 10 minutes, whatever it is, when you're in there, you're trapped in that world where you're discovering things about yourself as you're discovering things about the character.
Right.
So overall, I definitely have to go with It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. Anything anyone else wants to add before we move on? This is your chance.
I think maybe not having a soul is why I didn't like It's a Wonderful Life as much as everybody else did.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a drawback.
Yeah.
Not having any emotions would definitely.
Yeah, I kind of watched it like a sociopath. I just kind of stared at it and waited for it to get over.
Right.
Can, Mike, do you have another special guest host? We can start this thing over and we'll just record from the beginning again.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, bring in
It's a
the
little
stunt
late to
guest
figure
host.
that out.
He could cut you out and like we got a cat as our third one. Just like a few meows every now and then. Meow.
You guys are jerks.
All right, for a Christmas...
Why does anybody come on this show?
Because
they never come back.
No, they don't.
See,
They're never
makes
asked
sense
back.
now.
No, I'm kidding. The Griswold's neighbor house is the same house Murtaugh and his family lived in all of the Lethal Weapon movies. The houses on the street are on the Warner Brothers studio backlot. I thought it looked familiar, damn it.
Funny.
During the filming in downtown Cleveland for A Christmas Story, the Antique Automobile Club members whose cars were used were given a route to follow on Public Square. They were instructed to continue circling the square until otherwise instructed. Road salt was a major concern for the car owners, and the cars were pressure washed after each day's filming and parked underground beneath the terminal tower. And for It's a Wonderful Life, like Sam had mentioned, I believe, in the directing round, films made prior to this one used cornflakes painted white for the falling snow effect. Because the cornflakes were so loud, dialogue had to be dubbed in later. Frank Capra wanted to record the sound live, so a new sound effect was developed using foamite. Oh, snow effect, sorry, I said sound effect. I thought that. A firefighting chemical and soap and water. The mixture was then pumped at high pressure through a wind machine to create the silent falling snow. 6,000 gallons of the new snow were used in the film. The RKO Effects Department received a Class 3 Scientific or Technical Award from the Motion Picture Academy for the development of the new film Snow.
Wow.
Can I just throw out a real quick question here?
Sure.
Are you guys, filmmakers, what if you could have been on the set of any of these three movies, which one would you want to be on?
Anybody? I know mine. Mine's It's
Not
a
really
Wonderful
directing,
Life.
but just like fly on the wall watching
It's a
the
Wonderful
process.
Life. Definitely, It's a Wonderful Life. I love old movies. I can't help it. I just grew up with them, and I think watching Jimmy Stewart play the role that has just become him is, I think, would be spellbinding, and especially watching them doing these effects and reading. I mean, they're the page for It's a Wonderful Life. All the little trivia for it on IMDb is longer than the other, or I think it's actually longer than A Christmas Story, but they have a lot as well. But it's just mesmerizing on everything that they went through. They filmed it during a heat wave. So, yeah, for me, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, you can actually see Jimmy Stewart sweating in some of those scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, with all the other stuff going on, it makes sense.
I'm going to say Christmas Vacation because I think it might be the most fun to be on, just as far as people to hang out with and what you'd hear and observe with all the actors there. And I would have loved to talk to that old lady. Sit down and ask her what it was like to be Betty Boop. And, it'd be fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I would like to meet Jimmy Stewart.
Well, I'm right here, Gabe. How are you? I hear you're a crazy guy.
Yes, I am. And it's so sad. But no,
Wait, did Gabe just...
He's gone.
Gabe, come back. Come
Come back,
from
Gabe.
the light.
what?
Come to the light, Gabe.
He's out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Okay. They describe the generation around World War II as the greatest generation, and I think in many respects that's true. Somebody like Jimmy Stewart, being a bona fide movie star and being one of the first to volunteer and serve actively in World War II really says a lot about his character. And so not only was he talented, but he was a person of character. So I think I'd like to meet him. But as far as being on one of the film sets, I think I would enjoy A Christmas Story. I just think that seems like it would have been a really fun set to be on. It seemed like they really enjoyed the process, and it would have been an enjoyable experience, I think.
All right.
Cool.
Sam?
Wow. Christmas Vacation would be very cool because there'd be a lot of funny people there. It could be a really good time if Chevy Chase wasn't all like blow crazy or whatnot. Actually, Vegas Vacation, if I was going to choose a vacation movie or the original, I would probably be on set. But yeah, Christmas Story for sure. Just because the warmth that would probably be there. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life, it would have been a fun set, but a very more business-like set in some ways. Not that it wasn't a business-like set for It's a Christmas Story, but some of those performances were so intense in It's a Wonderful Life, you probably had to keep your distance from the actors, to generate that kind of emotion. Mm-hmm. Whereas Christmas Story, like, I'd love to be in that house with those people and telling jokes with the mom and the dad and, all the crazy kids and all that kind of stuff that went on. So, yeah, Christmas Story, definitely, I'd probably want to be on that set most of all.
Very cool. We actually have some listener feedback here. And while the monkey is calculating our results, this is from Melissa, and she starts out, "Hey, guys, I'm sure the Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, It's a Wonderful Life episode will be long enough as it is, but I wanted to know what everyone's favorite Christmas specials are. I have to watch A Charlie Brown Christmas every year. When I was little, my grandma had a VCR tape that was just Christmas specials. My dad was able to convert it to a DVD a few years back so I can still watch it. It has other shows like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, The Bernstein Bears Christmas, and a whole bunch of other ones that no one's ever heard of, like the Pinocchio Christmas. It's the same kind of stop motion as Rudolph. And Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It's the Muppets. I'll watch the whole DVD again this year, but I'd still say Charlie Brown is my favorite. Thanks, and have a happy Christmas." So, yeah, where you guys feel? What do you have to watch every year besides It's a Wonderful Life, Sam? Or at least TV special. I think she's talking about TV specials.
Yeah, TV specials. I love them all. Like, I love the nostalgia of seeing the same things that I did as a kid and with different eyes. Frosty's definitely gotta watch it every year. Rudolph is not as much. Like, I like it, but actually I like Frosty a little better. To me, Mickey's Christmas Carol, I really enjoy that one. I really love the story of A Christmas Carol, as we found out last year on our podcast. Mm-hmm. But I love the Mickey's Christmas Carol, and Emmett Otter's for sure. That's definitely one that I remember watching on HBO as a kid. Yep. But I know some people don't like the Charlie Brown. They're going to smack it up and say that they don't like it. You know who I'm talking
fools.
to.
Hey, I wasn't going to say.
But that's the one Charlie Brown I do like. Like, I don't like a lot of the others, but I will watch Charlie Brown every year, and just because of the feeling that it evokes in me. I don't like any of the other Charlie Brown specials as much. But yeah, definitely go with the Charlie Brown around Christmas time. It's not the same if you don't see it at least once a season.
All right. Anybody else?
The two that I really like are I like Opus and Bill had what the Bloom County characters did a Christmas one called A Wish for Wings That Work, and it's got Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman in it. It's really good. And then Drew Barrymore did one called Olive the Other Reindeer, which I really like. It's got her and Joey Pants in it. And, those are two I was trying to catch.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I don't think you can go wrong with Rudolph. I know that Sam doesn't like Rudolph as well as as Frosty, but you know, it's one of those things that I remember watching as a kid, and you know, good or bad, it's the kind of thing that you associate with your childhood, and you do have to marvel a little bit at the effort that they went through to get that made. You know, like all the stop motion type stuff, and how long that would have taken, and how well they did with it. So, you know, I think you can't go wrong kind of revisiting Rudolph.
What about you, Kyle? Kyle's dead.
Sorry, I was yawning. Hold on. I don't necessarily have a set one that I have to watch. I enjoy a lot of the Christmas special stuff. I just got turned on to Emmett Otter in the last couple years. That doesn't mean Emmett Otter turns me on. That means Heather basically sat me down and said, "You've never watched Emmett Otter. You're wasting your life. Watch Emmett Otter." So now it's going to be a yearly thing, whether I like it or not. I do enjoy the Garfield holiday specials and the Charlie Brown ones. Those are the ones I remember as a kid. And the Rankin and Bass stuff, the claymation, stop motion stuff, that's, you know, I remember that as a kid. I don't necessarily have to watch it every year, though.
Well, for me, it's definitely got to be Rudolph and Emmett Otter. And I love, it's a Mickey's Christmas Carol, right? It's not Disney's Christmas Carol. It's Mickey's Christmas Carol. I think those three probably round out everything that I love about Christmas holiday specials. Let us not forget Star Wars Christmas special, wasn't it? I actually caught that on YouTube a while back, and wow, fantastic. Were you going to say something, Sam?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's Christmas. I love Star Wars, but yeah, that Christmas special was wacky.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, hey, Star Wars is popular. Let's do this. And yeah, it didn't fit very well. So,
Yeah.
well, you know what? Let's go ahead and announce who won this trinity of the Tinseled Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is It's a Wonderful Life!
And this is what I'm going to tell you guys that Wonderful Life won 9-7.
9-7.
Ah.
Yeah.
Did Christmas Vacation have any votes?
0.
Oh, man.
0.
That's too bad because it's a fun movie. It's
And
an
to be
entertaining
honest,
movie.
I was
just can't compare to the two major classics that we're talking about.
I knew it wasn't going to
It's
happen.
on a different level.
I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I really wanted Sam to vote for Christmas Story, and it would have been tied, and I would have gotten my first tiebreaker. But
Oh man.
Actually, Mike, we all talked to each other beforehand to ensure that you never get a tiebreaker.
oh, thank you, thanks.
Right.
You weren't supposed to tell him, Tom.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, they even put me in on that, man.
Wow.
All right, so we'll give you a Christmas gift, Mike. If it
Yeah.
was a tie, who would you have gone for and why?
I would have gone for It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, I can't really say Christmas Vacation because I wasn't even in the running, but I would have said It's a Wonderful Life because of God, I watched it on YouTube and I still got this overwhelming feeling of I am a very lucky man. Kind of like what Gabe said. I'm surrounded by very talented friends, and I have a fantastic family that never tells me that I can't do anything. They're always there pushing me. It's a Wonderful Life just really kind of opens your eyes, and I really think that a lot of people should watch it if they're feeling down about themselves and just realize, you know what, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you have a 67-inch TV. It doesn't matter if you have a Mercedes or Lamborghini in your driveway. What matters is your family and your friends. Let's go ahead and move on to recommendations. And does anyone want to go first?
Well, before we make our recommendations, can I give a quick shout out to our National Film Challenge entry that we did a few months back?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sam.
Yay.
Yay!
Well, we talked a little bit on the last podcast about it. It was an amazing experience for a lot of really talented filmmakers. And I'm proud to report that we found out this week that we made the top 15 of the international competition out of 152 films. So starting very soon, probably by the time you're listening to this podcast, we'll have a full campaign going online for you to see the film and vote for it, and maybe bring Audience Choice home to Des Moines, Iowa. It's called Melody. It's a horror short film, and I think if you check it out, you'll enjoy it. And if you don't, we'd love to get your feedback. It's just a great example of, again, of how wonderful a life can be when your friends support you and you support them, and you all come together to make something creative. And the fact that this is just the beginning, hopefully, of several productions down the road makes it even better, and the chance to show the world what Des Moines can do and all the talents that are in Des Moines and the state of Iowa, to me, is simply amazing. So check out filmchallenge.org. You can view all the top 15 there. Please vote for Melody. Check it out. We definitely appreciate it, and we hope you enjoy.
And when Sam says criticism, I want to point, or feedback, I want to point out constructive criticism. Don't just, oh, I hated it, or just tell us why. Tell us, give us some input. Just don't slam it, or even just don't say, hey, it was a wonderful film. Kind of point out what you liked. That's how. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I like. I like to have, whether it is negative or positive, I still like constructive criticism.
So Mike, you don't want people just writing you and saying it sucked.
Right.
Okay, can you delete the email I just sent you?
Sure. Let me get right on that.
The positive is all great. I love hearing the negative, but just the why. You tell me it sucks. I need to hear that, but just tell me why, so I can understand your perspective.
I agree. Yep.
In all truth, I haven't seen it. I'm dying to see it, so I'm sure it's wonderful.
I can't wait for you guys to see it. Well, I can't wait for the listeners to see it too. I think it would be awesome.
People to see it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead. Go ahead, Sam. Your recommendation for this week?
My recommendation, I actually went back to our podcast of last year to listen to it, just to kind of reflect on what it means to do a podcast series for a year. And I thought I recommended this one last year, but I didn't. Last year, I recommended the series Skins, which, if you haven't checked it out over the whole year, you're a motherfucker. And you better mark that, Mike.
Oh, my God.
And you should see it. But smack it up. Smack it up.
Don't do that while I'm taking a drink.
My recommendation, though, is a little off kilter. It's one of my guilty pleasures around the holiday season. It's called Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. Basically, it follows a young kid after his parents are murdered. He's adopted and then goes on a murderous rampage dressed as Santa, and actually attacks the Mother Superior of a local orphanage. It's gritty. It's exploitive. There's lots of boobies in there. And just random killing, some really funny 80s stuff, and the toys they sell at the toy store are the toys that I grew up with, so it's even more of a factor to see all those cool toys. It's a guilty pleasure. You're not going to get a lot if you're looking for a really deep movie, but if you happen to like horror films and you want to see something a little different and you haven't seen it, check it out. Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's a little hard to find right now because it's out of print. But I'm sure there's some VHS tapes somewhere and a few DVD releases that you can get relatively cheap, but it's worth it. Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984.
All right. Who wants to go next? I'll pick you. I'll get you. Gabe.
All right. Well, I am always underprepared for these things, and I never pick my recommendation early enough. And I like to try to do something that's topical, something that's related to what we've been talking about. But that didn't happen. I don't know that I could think of any. We covered some pretty great holiday movies. I don't know if I could think of very many more holiday movies that would be worth a watch. Instead, I chose a foreign film called Amelie. And if you haven't seen it, I really think it's worth your time. You may not be interested in foreign films. You may not like reading subtitles. but it's a really charming film that is really satisfying in the end. It's kind of a strange, whimsical film that mixes in a little bit of kind of mystery, some comedy. It's just really highly enjoyable. So I would definitely recommend you pick up Amelie and give it a read.
All right, Tom.
When Christmas time rolls around, there's always that talk. People, what's your favorite Christmas movie that's not really about Christmas? And Die Hard is in there. One of the ones that I really like that takes place at Christmas, that's just a really fun movie to watch this time of year. This movie came out about 6 years ago called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, you guys know it. Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer.
Fantastic.
It's an action comedy. Neo-noir is kind of the category it falls into. It's kind of a new film noir type film. It's a detective story. It's directed by Shane Black, who is going to be taking over the Iron Man franchise for episode 3. So a chance to see some of his work.
Wait a minute, Tom.
It's real. Yes.
He wrote some of the Lethal Weapons, didn't he?
Yes, he wrote all the Lethal
God,
Weapons and Last Boy Scout, which is some people don't like, but I really like Last Boy Scout. I think it's a fun movie. He really gets a really good handle on the buddy crime genre, and this is another one of those. And it's a really fun story, and it's not all just laid out for you. It's got a little bit of mystery to it as well, and just a really really funny, laugh out loud action mystery noir film. So check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
That's a great pick.
If you don't, you're a motherfucker.
Damn it.
Mark it.
Yep, there we go. Again.
Mark it 8, dude.
My favorite line from Last Boy Scout is, sky is blue, water is wet, women have secrets, but old Satan Claus is out there watching you. Right at the last while they're walking away. Sorry. Kyle, what you got, man?
All right, add this to your fucking list. Gabe, you stole my French foreign film idea, and I'm going to kill you. Okay.
Okay.
The movie...
This is going to be really awkward. This is going to be really awkward.
Smack it up.
If Gabe ends up dead tomorrow,
I don't know.
I'm going to feel awkward about this.
I am going to recommend another French film, another Audrey Tautou film.
Another French.
Audrey, the chick from the Da Vinci Code, the first one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's called He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. It was made in 2002. And absolutely love this movie. I think you should watch it. It has a great device in it where about almost exactly halfway through the movie, the perspective flips from one main character to the other. You see at the beginning, you see everything from one person's perspective. When you turn it around, you see everything from the other person's perspective, and it creates an awesome film experience. So I think you should definitely watch it. It's called He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not.
All right. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you while you have the floor. I want to thank you for joining us for
yes, filibuster.
Our year anniversary of Cinesmack, and I figured you'd like it because you are one person that I know that loves Christmas just a little too much.
I am a Christmas nut. It is my favorite time of year. Yeah. Absolutely. I just need to get invited to an ugly sweater party. I can find one with, I always wanted one of those really cheesy Christmas sweaters. But
one with the poodle.
Maybe I need to aim a little higher with my goals.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get you a poodle sweater sometime.
Not exactly what I was going for, but okay.
Well, I want to recommend. I usually try to stay with films, but I'm going to go with a series, and it's a series that is pretty brand new, and it's called Boss, and it's on Starz, and it follows Tom Kane, the mayor of Chicago, has been recently diagnosed with a degenerative. Can't talk. I'm not even going to try it. No, I just tongue-tied my neurological disorder. God, that was rough. Maybe I have it. Fast. Oh my God, maybe I have it. It stars Kelsey Grammer, Connie Nielsen, and Rotmi Akin Osho, maybe. every time I tell someone that it stars Kelsey Grammer, they're like, oh, it's a comedy. No, there is no way that this would be considered a comedy. Kelsey Grammer is absolutely brilliant in this TV show. And I have to say, I was hooked 5 minutes in. As usual, we'd appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. We appreciate you guys listening. If it wasn't for you guys, there's no way that we would have made it to fight number 13. This is all thanks to you guys still listening, sending us some feedback, talking to us when you see us at work or when you see us out in public. It's awesome. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Send us in some ideas. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Message us on there. Just search Cinesmack. The next episode, join us as we compare dragon tattoos when the Swedish girl with the dragon tattoo takes on her doppelganger, the American girl with the dragon tattoo. We will also have another special guest due to Mark still being lost at sea. I don't know if that dude's ever coming back. So, anything you guys want to end with? Anyone?
I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed my time here, and maybe I'll be back someday.
That's funny.
I mean, you did great.
You guys are
good
sons
job.
of bitches.
For Sam, Tom, Gabe, Kyle, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Merry Christmas.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Hey, the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Take it, Russ.
Sentimental hogwash.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around and pull it down.
You'll have some quiet talk.
In the heat of battle, my father wove a tapestry of obscenity that, as far as we know, is still hanging in space over Lake Michigan.
Get me back, I don't care what happens to me. Get me back to my wife and kids. Help me, Clarence, please. Please. I want to live again.
Merry Christmas! Dinner was full!
Whoopee! A sibling!
I wish I had $1 million. Hot dog!
I had to have her replaced because every time Catherine revved up the microwave, I'd piss my pants and forget who I was for a half hour or so.
I have since heard of people under extreme duress speaking in strange tongues. I became conscious that a steady torrent of obscenities and swearing of all kinds was pouring out of me as I screamed.
Your mouth's bleeding. Are you sure you're all right? My mouth's bleeding, Bert! My mouth's bleeding! There they are! Bert! What do you know about this? Merry Christmas!
How do the little piggies go?
Tylenol.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.